Thanks for tuning in to another episode on Cloudnative FM. We are talking about today Perses. Perses, an open source tool and a CNCF sandbox project, was introduced to address some gap in the open source dashboarding ecosystem, particularly as Grafana, a dominant player, shifted from its primitive Apache 2.0 license to a stricter AGPL license. This change led to uncertainty in the community, prompting a search for alternative that could offer more freedom and flexibility without vendor lock-in. Perses steps in with an open source approach under the CNCF's umbrella, focusing on simplicity, ease of use, and extensibility while maintaining a lightweight footprint. Justus is a principal engineer at Amadeus and also a Prometheus maintainer, currently focusing on how you can share UI component between different UI that are in the Prometheus ecosystem. He's also working on a new open source project called Perses that aims to be a GitOps-friendly standard dashboard visualization tool for Prometheus. He started contributed to Prometheus and created a PromQL editor with Julius Volz, and today is available in Prometheus console, and you should help and that help you write easier PromQL query. When he's not trying to redo the word, he's likely to trying to climb a high mountain or to find the sun and the fresh air. Let's welcome Augustin Hossein, Prometheus and Perses team member, for a deep dive into origin from theory to execution and to the newest member of the CNCF sandbox family.
Hello, Sam. I'm currently living in France, close to the Alps, because I really like going on the mountain on my free time. And currently, I'm entirely focusing on Perses because, well, like you said, we just jump on the CNCF sandbox, and I don't want to see it stop it like that. I want to continue on this journey and move it to incubation, and maybe one day graduated. I hope so. So yeah, I'm really focusing on Perses, increasing the number of features, stabilities of the project, and well, doing some podcast with the guys that would like to talk about Perses, of course, and spreading the word.
Awesome, absolutely. And I think thanks a congratulations for all the people involved in the Perses for the recent sandbox in the CNCF ladder. So it's been a great to be a part of the CNCF community. So without any further delay, I want to learn from you. I have seen many people refer observability as the ability to understand and measure the state of the system based on generated data and to generate actionable output from unexpected scenarios. But according to you, can you let us briefly tell us what does observability look like in today's landscape?
I think you have a really large solution in the landscape that can do everything you would like to do and to perform. On the observability data on the free open source, I mean, you have everything you need to have. For the backend, you have Prometheus. For the traces, you have Jaeger. For the logs, you have something else. I don't remember. OpenSearch, I think they enter in the CNCF. And then you have OpenTelemetry that is putting the standards, the protocol standard for every data. So now you have a single way to talk to everything, which is great for metrics, logs, and traces. And then, while outside, well, it's in the landscape, but outside of the CNCF, you have many different vendors in the observability. So you can choose, let's say, based on the pricing, on the feature, you can choose really the solution you would like. And now you have Perses that is entering in the game. You have also Dash Zero, that is a new startup, also a new observability vendor that started that enter in the game as well. And why I'm talking about this vendor particularly is because they are compatible to Perses, and that's a really great news because that's the first vendor I know that is supporting the data model of Perses. So which was one of the first objectives of Perses, providing a standard model for the dashboard. So yeah, that's a great. We have a ground landscape on observability. I think that's the biggest area in the landscape. So yeah, maybe sometimes you could feel it's too much because there are so many things, and you really don't know where to go. But I think the journey in observability should start by Prometheus. That's a really good base. And then if you need more, then you will add tracing. And then if you need more, you will add, well, the logs will be always there. But, and then, well, in terms of visualization, it will really depend on what your needs. Of course, I will say try Perses, but I mean, Grafana is still, still, well, it's a really great tool. And if you go on QCOM, I mean, you have Grafana everywhere. Every time you have a dashboard, it's Grafana. So of course, it's a great tool.
Absolutely. And I think like I have seen like observability sometime because of becomes a mess for all of the people. But we do know how critical this component is because you can predict where you are and what are the things that you need to improve upon as your system grows and complex in so many microservices running on containerized application with Kubernetes as orchestrator, and you are in the cloud. So there is cost, there is troubleshooting, there is monitoring, so many things going on. So observability can tell us what should we do to actually optimize cost, what should we do to reduce the errors and make sure that the threshold meets and user are actually happy when you're actually accessing your application. But can you briefly tell us when, why, and how observability becomes so complex to manage?
Well, I think that's because it's a really old subject. I mean, observability exists since the beginning of in IT. And going through the years, every time someone was proposing a new solution, and then you have Prometheus that try to erase everything that has been done before, but then we wanted different backend for different kind of data. So your metrics, traces, logs, just because you have three different kind of data, that means you need three different kind of backend. So backend database, which means you need a UI that is able to display in a different way three different kind of data. So it's really complex, and the goal of since few years is to be able to navigate through the different data and to correlate them together. And that's a really complex subject because well, you have a logs, okay, but then you have a metrics, how you can make link together to say, okay, it's the same context, it's the same. So during the years, over a different backend provides a different kind of solution, but it's still the beginning actually. So I think today is still complex, but it's less complex than a few years ago, and it really, you have a lot of engineers that is trying really hardly to make it simple, because at the end it's guys that is waking up at 3 a.m. that needs to understand what's going on, and he has so less time to do it. So yeah, we are really trying hardly to make it simple.
Yes, absolutely. As we spoke, I think it's a lot of the different components. And sometimes you actually add in some libraries from the third parties, and there are some external system you need to talk to. So there is so much request and response flowing through from I think from left to right and top to bottom. So it's because it's quite easy to sense there is some complex words involved in it as well. And that but the reward you're getting at the end of the day from the observability is a very fruitful. So I think we can accept this complexity. But what should we look at? Like, is a DevOps developer or some open source maintainer? How should we consume this all the data that dashboard is telling me all the time?
That's a really complex question because, like you said, it involves so many people, and while it's a bit like what I said before, it requires to simplify everything. And a matter of fact, I think OpenTelemetry is great for that. Well, it will continue this journey, but it really helps actually to simplify everything. Well, not everything, but it tries really hardly to simplify everything. And then depending of what you are looking for, but if you have an issue with actually a backend, then yeah, please contact the maintainers. Then if you have an issue with the dashboard, maybe you need to improve it because if you don't understand as a frontline support, if you don't understand the dashboard made by another team, that's not okay because you don't understand every business in your company. So yeah, it's observability. I think it's a lot of work at any levels and to simplify the journey of everyone. But yeah, I think it's worth it for sure.
Absolutely. So I look at the Perses and I look at some of the blog and some of the talks around Perses. So I look at this one term has been very often speak about it. We know the terms like infrastructure as code. We know the term like platform as code. But what do we mean by what what do you mean by dashboard as code and how this can help monitor application in a GitOps fashion?
Well, it's actually quite simple. You have a dashboard in JSON or whatever the format you would like, but imagine you have a big dashboard like the Node Exporter dashboard. It's like 1,000 line of JSON or YAML, and you have some variables and so on, and you want the same variables in a different dashboard, which is also 1,000 of line. And imagine now you have 5,000 dashboards and you have a governance of this dashboard. You want to, that every dashboard has the same kind of panels explaining how to contact the team that is owner of the dashboard. That's not something you can do it by hand. So actually we want to implement the dashboard to provide a framework or libraries that is able to generate afterwards the dashboard. So that's actually the case in Amadeus. We have like 5,000 dashboards and it's impossible to manage by hand, of course, and because we have governance and stuff like that. And dashboard as code is a solution for a company like us. And it's simply code your dashboard. And in Perses, we are providing two SDKs, so in Qlang and in Golang. And also, it really makes sense, even if you are not in such large company, it makes sense, I think, to implement your dashboard because that means it's version alongside your application. So if your application is changing its metrics, for example, but usually you need to change the dashboard. But if the dashboard is implemented in the same repository than your application, that means the same PR, you can change the dashboard and is when your application will be shipped in Kubernetes, for example, you will ship as well your dashboard at the same time with Helm, for example, and it will be up to date at the same moment you are deploying the application. You see?
Awesome.
Dashboard as code makes
Absolutely.
everything simpler.
Yes, absolutely. I love the terminology. I think that, as you mentioned, this should be and I think this can relate to the next question I'm asking you in a minute. One of the pain points we often see while working with a Grafana is that when you upgrade, it's often breaks the dashboard due to the schema changes.
Yeah.
So people try to learn from this podcast today. If we go for the Perses route, how this handles the upgrade and what make it more stable in this regard.
So when we restarted from scratch a new dashboard tool like Perses, we wanted a GitOps approach. And so that means two things. First, we want to provide a CLI that is able to validate everything. So that if we are able to validate your dashboard, that means your dashboard will work in Perses, which is super important, especially if you are in the dashboard as code as approach and you want to have a CI/CD validating at every point your dashboard. And the second point is we want to rework entirely the data model of Grafana from scratch to have something more explanatory. I mean, to have some things that mean something in the JSON. And so to answer actually your question, are we stable now? I cannot really answer it. I mean, the dashboard, the specification of the dashboard are stable. I don't think we changed it since 1 year or two. But what is evolving today is the plugin, which is outside, let's say, of the dashboard specification. And the plugin will still evolve as long as we need more fields to represent the color, for example, or the unit to display, I don't know, a traffic or the currency of a money, something like that. But even that, because currently we are changing the whole plugin architecture, we don't touch about to the data model of the plugin itself. So we change a lot of things. We are changing a lot of things. So we are breaking things, but it doesn't impact the database itself. And currently we don't have any models for upgrading a schema, but that's the goal. We are not yet on this topic, but it's ongoing. It will come. Once we will finish the new architecture of the plugin, we will work on it because we need to provide an answer to how we will do it. And yeah, an easy way to migrate from one version to another one, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I think especially if people are living in the Kubernetes world, they actually want to add more and more stuff into the Kubernetes and to have your own CRDs. And if that database doesn't understand what this CRDs does, it doesn't give you any insight in the dashboard. And then people think, oh, why we're missing this information. So this has to be a very concerning in the community. And thanks God, the projects like Process actually here, and they are looking some eyes on into this spectrum as well. So one thing I've learned today is that Perses can work with Prometheus, Thanos, and Jagger. So is there anything planned for the near future for the other data sources or other integration point that we can see coming up from the cloud integration point of view or some other open source tool in that spectrum?
So yeah, we are going to integrate logs. That's coming. On this direction, we added just 1 month or even 2 weeks ago the table panel. That will be the first panel to be able to display the logs. We want also the how it's to debug your memory and stuff like that. I don't remember the name. I'm really sorry, but probably we will start with Parka. I don't know if you know the tools. It really helps to debug your process if you have a memory leak. And we actually use it to debug some memory leaks in Perses, and that's really, we want to integrate it as well. And then I have a lot of requests. Well, yeah, I have some requests to integrate over my vendors like Victoria Metrics, Open House, I think it's known like that. I have another vendors. Maybe maybe one day Datadogs will want to be integrated as well. I'm not so sure, but let's see. So, and I think the most time question I have is, do we support SQL? So the short answer is no, we don't support SQL yet. But since I have so many requests to integrate it, probably at some point we will add it. But the big question is, because when the people is asking me, do we want to integrate SQL, I'm not sure if they want to know, are we going to support the SQL language, or are you going to support direct queries to database, to SQL database? That's not the same thing, because for example, for OpenHouse, they support SQL language, but it's through HTTP. And today you can already do that with Perses because we are supporting HTTP requests, so there is no issue on that. But SQL will come, probably.
Yes, absolutely. I see there's a lot of the requests going on that front as well. But we definitely will try to see what the use case people actually trying to cover as well. So since you are the part of a vibrant community in the Prometheus and in the observability space in general, before we ask you some more question in that front, I think you have been in the PromCon last week. So what is the recap of the PromCon and where is it actually held and what are the new thing you discovered you can share with some of the audience here?
So a short recap of PromCon is Prometheus 3.0 has been released as a beta 0, so you should really try it to get feedback, to give us some feedback. Just wait. For example, on our side, we deploy it and we realize that some feature flag has been missing, and I just opened a PR to edit them. So yeah, really try it. It's really important to be sure that Prometheus 3.0 won't break any system and will be super stable, like it's already the case for the Prometheus 2 dot 54, something like that. And you really like stability in Prometheus, so you want to continue on that. So for that, we need your help. So please help us. On otherwise that it was well, at least on my side, I think interesting that Grafana made a sort of hackathon to find a new way to store metadata to be more efficient, because today metadata is a nightmare to get. If you have like us 1 billion of time series, it's impossible to get the metadata, so you lose a huge and interesting information the metrics, because now because on Grafana, on Perses, on anywhere, if you don't have the metadata, then you don't know, if you are trying to find the metrics, you don't know how to use it. So you need to rely on the application documentation, which is not that great, especially on the observability. I don't think application usually document their metrics. So having the metadata is super important. And we talk about the metadata storage during the Dev Summit that happens next after the PromCon. So that the Dev Summit is a big one-day workshop with all, at least most of the members of Prometheus and some contributors or just user. It's really open, so anyone can join. And we talk again about it. And well, we talk about a lot of things, of course. Also, what are the missing steps to reach Prometheus 3.0 stable version. What are the next steps on OpenTelemetry supporting? On the PromCon, super interesting topic is the remote write 2.0. Super interesting if you are interested in that. Bartek did a really cool speech to explain what is it and why we need to have a 2.0. So yeah, really important to watch it.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing some of the insight. And I actually share with I hope there's a link I shared available. You can see the link somewhere on the screen. So all the thing Augustin has spoken about on right now. So one final question before we wrap it up. What has been the community response to Perses so far, especially if the Grafana changing licenses or other dashboard in the market is not actually quite extensible with the need of the community. So what is the response so far for the Perses project from the community?
It's quite how I can say that, slow, let's say. Perses is a really tiny project in terms of maintainers. We are just 10. So it's not that much comparing to Grafana that have something like 100 contributors to, well, paid by Grafana to work on Grafana. So we are 10 times less. And Perses is not really well known by the community, by, well, anyone in the world. And actually moving to CNC Sandbox, that was not something I was expected. Actually, I didn't expecting that much, and it was really great to see it attracts people. More people are interesting to the project, and that would like to contribute to it. Some of them I talked to them during the PromCon, and it was a super interesting talk. So it's moving slowly, but it's still evolving and moving. And I'm really interested about what will happen in the future. And I really think once we will reach the incubation target in CNCF, yeah, it will really what the people are waiting for. They want stability and incubation on sure that. So for the moment, they are observing. Yeah, it's interesting, but in production, I cannot run it. So I prefer Grafana, but it's interesting. Maybe I will try it, give some feedback, and wait and see. That's the current status, I would say, in general.
Yes, absolutely. And that's how all the project within the CNCF umbrella has started. You pick it up, you start learning it, you see the need for it, you start customizing it, sharing it in the GitHub repository so other people can use it. So I can expect the project definitely grow. And growing mean you need to go for the community where the community is. So is there a KubeCon planning upfront for your visibility in the Salt Lake or the Persis booth somewhere people can talk to you about the potential collaboration for this project in the KubeCon Salt Lake?
So there is a question to have a booth at KubeCon Europe next year. Unfortunately, I won't be at KubeCon America or in India or in China. I don't remember if it's happening this year. I don't remember. But yeah, we are questioning ourselves if we are going to KubeCon London with a booth. I'm pretty sure I will at least join KubeCon Europe, and if they are doing the same, CNCF is well. Last time they did it, so I'm expecting they're doing the same, which is opening a room for all CNCF projects to give an update. So I will do a short speech, a lightning speak at this moment for sure, and let's see if we can have a booth. I think we have the right to ask it but then it depends, I think, about how many requests we have. I'm
Absolutely.
not so sure.
Absolutely. And speaking of all the details, how you can communicate with the guest, he's available on the CNCF Slack channel, also on the Twitter. So he's more than happy to ask and share some of the feedback. You can ask question where the project is, what use cases you could use for it. It's just about the community that can actually help build up the momentum for this project. So I try to wrap up in a very few sentences what the project is, and I hope I guess I will try to correct me if I do something wrong. So, so the premise Perses is observability-driven design tailored to visualize observability data from popular monitoring tools like Prometheus, Thanos, and tracing list system like Jagger. And it's a vendor neutral, is a part of the CNCF SAT project, benefiting from transparent and open development model. It's alternative to Grafana if you're actually concerned about AGPL licensing. They have recently moved to. And also a customizable dashboard. You can actually track infrastructure performance, application metrics, distributed traces. Perses provide flexibility in how you present and analyze data. Its integration with Thanos and Prometheus, Thanos is a highly scalable Prometheus setup for long-term storage. You can easily visualize, analyze real-time and historical data. And it supports Jaeger for tracing and also provide different NPM packages so that anyone who would like to embed charts and dashboard in their UI could benefit from the work achieved here. Also, it has a per CLI that is too friendly to dashboard as a code user by providing a complete static validation of the dashboard format. So this means you will be able to validate your dashboard in a CI/CD using Perses CLI. So anything I misses, you can add.
No, that's a pretty good summary. Well done.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much. So it's been a great talking with you, and hopefully we will meet again sometime in the future when the project has become adopted, community is backing up, starting using it, starting integrating in this pipeline. For me, it's a very good project. It has a very unique use cases that we are lacking for a long time, and I hope I can make some contribution from my part as well to tell people this project exists and you can start using it in your daily life. So with that, thank you very much, Augustin. It's been pleasure talking to you, and I hope to soon connect with you again in the near future as well. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Well, I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much.